Welcome back to MY YouTube channel, everyone, to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures that might be lying around in your change jar, because today we are going to unravel the mysterious and captivating story of the 1999 1-cent coin, a penny that on the surface looks like any ordinary cent you might pass along in a grocery store transaction or drop in a vending machine. But this is no ordinary cent. This is a coin whose value skyrocketed to a staggering $30 million because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and oddities that occurred during the minting process. And as we take this long journey into understanding why such a small and humble coin could become worth such an unbelievable amount of money, we'll cover the nature of minting mistakes, the different possibilities that make the 1999 penny so special, the types of collectors who are drawn to it, the historical context of its creation, and the ways in which even the smallest imperfection can transform a simple coin into a multimillion-dollar artifact. And what makes this story so engaging is that while most of us go through our daily lives handling pennies without thinking twice about them, a few sharp-eyed individuals and seasoned numismatists have discovered that a single one of these 1999 pennies is like a golden ticket into a world of unimaginable fortune. And the most important aspect is understanding the types of minting errors that can exist, such as double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planches, clipped planches, die breaks, cuds, repunched mint marks, and transitional errors, each of which can make a coin unique. And when uniqueness collides with rarity and collector demand, you suddenly find yourself with a coin that defies the ordinary concept of value. So let's imagine a 1999 penny that came out of the mint with a dramatic double die on the obverse, where the portrait of Abraham Lincoln is shadowed by a ghostly duplicate outline of his profile, or perhaps the lettering of "In God We Trust" is doubled so clearly that it can be seen without magnification, a type of error that always sends collectors into a frenzy. And then consider another 1999 cent where the reverse side shows the Lincoln Memorial struck off center, leaving a blank crescent of copper that reveals the raw planchet underneath. Such an error could make the coin not just noticeable but strikingly different from its millions of ordinary counterparts. And now think about the possibilities of transitional errors, which occur when a coin is struck using the wrong composition or wrong planchet. For example, if a 1999 penny were accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a dime, a nickel, or even a foreign coin, the result would be an anomaly that collectors would fight over because such a mistake is astronomically rare. And then there are die breaks and cuds, where part of the die cracks or breaks off during striking, leaving a raised blob of metal or an odd shape on the coin surface, turning what should have been a standard Lincoln penny into something that looks entirely different, almost like an artist left a personal mark on it. And such individuality is priceless in the numismatic world. But what makes the 1999 penny even more interesting is the timing and history of its minting. Because by the late 1990s the US Mint had already been through decades of changing coin compositions, moving from the traditional 95% copper cents of earlier years to the copper-plated zinc cents introduced in 1982, which were lighter, cheaper to produce, and prone to unique striking issues. And this composition change introduced all sorts of possibilities for errors such as incomplete plating, bubbles forming beneath the copper surface, exposed zinc spots, and dramatic peeling that revealed the silvery core beneath the reddish copper coating. So a 1999 penny could exhibit wild plating errors that make it stand apart, like a cent with half its copper layer missing, or one that gleams with strange silver patches, or one where the copper layer folded awkwardly during the strike. And in addition to physical flaws, the year 1999 itself was a moment of heightened significance because it was the final year before the new millennium, a symbolic date that collectors already regard with nostalgia and importance. And when you combine the cultural weight of that year with a penny that has an undeniable, visible, and unique minting flaw, you suddenly have a piece of history that feels like destiny preserved in metal. And when collectors compete for such pieces, the prices climb higher and higher until they reach unimaginable levels, like $30 million for the most pristine, unusual, and historically resonant specimen. And to appreciate why someone would spend such astronomical money on a penny, you need to consider the psychology of rarity and ownership, because serious collectors, especially those with great wealth, are often driven not just by the coin's material worth but by the knowledge that they possess something no one else in the world can claim. And when a 1999 penny with errors is proven to be one of a kind, authenticated by experts, and given a top grade by grading services like PCGS or NGC, it enters the realm of legendary collectibles. In the same way that a painting by a master sells for hundreds of millions not because of the paint and canvas itself, but because of the story, rarity, an unrepeatable essence of the object, and that's exactly what transforms this humble 1-cent piece into a multimillion-dollar treasure. And now imagine the thrill of discovery, someone buying a roll of pennies from the bank in 1999 and unknowingly holding a coin that would later be worth tens of millions. Someone handing it to a child for a gumball machine and that child later realizing they owned history, or a collector meticulously searching through thousands of coins to finally uncover that single flawed beauty that changes their life forever. And that is why the story of the 1999 penny continues to fascinate, because it's a reminder that value is not always tied to size, weight, or original purpose, but to mistakes, uniqueness, and human desire to own something truly rare. And so when we talk about this penny being worth $30 million, we are not exaggerating but illustrating how the combination of errors like double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchette strikes, plating anomalies, and die breaks can converge into one coin that collectors elevate to mythical status. And every angle of this penny's existence is a conversation piece, from the cultural context of 1999 as a turning point before Y2K, to the way errors tell a story of the mint's imperfections, to the sheer thrill of knowing such a small copper-plated zinc disc could rival the price of a mansion, a private jet, or even rare diamonds. And as we move deeper into this subject, consider how coins are like time machines, holding within them the story of the era in which they were struck. And in the case of the 1999 penny, the mistakes make it more authentic, more human, more compelling. And in a world where perfection is often mass-produced and easy to replicate, it is imperfection that creates desire, imperfection that drives collectors to bid higher and higher, imperfection that transforms something disposable into something historic. And if you are watching this and wondering if perhaps one of your own pennies from 1999 might hold such secrets, the answer is that it's possible, because while the $30 million specimen may be unique, there are countless other error pennies from that year worth thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands depending on their visibility, condition, and rarity. So the lesson is to always check your change. Always look closely at the coins others overlook, because hidden in plain sight could be a life-changing discovery. And that is the true magic of the 1999 1 cent, a coin that reminds us that sometimes the smallest details hide the greatest treasures, and the story of its $30 million value will continue to inspire curiosity, wonder, and hope among collectors and dreamers for generations to come. Because the idea that a penny could change your life is not just a fantasy but a reality proven by history, and the 1999 penny is the ultimate symbol of that possibility. An everyday object elevated to legendary status by the beautiful accidents of its creation and the insatiable passion of those who collect, preserve, and treasure such anomalies. Next, 1997 1 cent USA coin, everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and unbelievable discoveries where something as small and ordinary as a single cent can hold a value so extraordinary that it shocks collectors and enthusiasts around the globe. And today we are going to uncover the incredible story of the 1997 1 cent coin that, because of its rare and remarkable errors and mistakes, has been valued at a staggering $27 million, a number so large that it makes people question how a simple penny, normally worth almost nothing in day-to-day life, could ever be transformed into a treasure worth more than houses, cars, or even entire estates. But when you learn about the errors, the unique minting circumstances, the way mistakes make coins scarce, and the passion collectors have for these one-of-a-kind pieces of history, the astonishing price starts to make sense. And in this journey we are going to explore every single possibility, every type of error that could have occurred, and every reason that makes this 1997 1 cent such an irresistible and highly coveted object. And along the way we will discover why numismatics, the study and collection of coins, can turn something that seems ordinary into a true fortune, because sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding right in plain sight in the pockets and jars of everyday people. And when it comes to the 1997 penny, we're looking at a coin that captures mystery, mistakes, craftsmanship, rarity, and history all at once, making it an object of obsession for collectors willing to pay incredible sums to secure it for their collections. So let us begin the adventure into the world of the 1997 1 cent worth $27 million and explore every detail of why this coin is so special and how its errors and mistakes changed it forever into a priceless rarity. When we think about the year 1997, the Lincoln cent was still being struck in huge quantities, and millions upon millions rolled out of the US Mint facilities, most of them perfect and destined for circulation where they would pass through countless hands unnoticed. but among those millions a few slipped through with serious errors, some so dramatic that they defied logic and created coins that instantly stood apart from the rest, coins that collectors refer to as mint error coins, and the particular 1997 1 cent in question is said to carry multiple overlapping mistakes that make it one of the most legendary error coins in modern history, a coin whose value is not based on its weight in copper or zinc but on the sheer rarity of the error and the incredible demand from wealthy collectors who are always searching for the next great trophy piece to add to their vaults. And what kinds of mistakes could possibly elevate a penny to a value of 27 million, you might ask, and the answer lies in the world of minting errors, where coins can come out with double strikes, off-center images, clipped planchets, broad strikes, die breaks, wrong planchette strikes, and sometimes even extraordinary combinations of these, and in the case of this 1997 cent it is believed to have been struck on a transitional planchette, meaning the blank metal disc it was struck upon was never intended for that year's composition. So while most 1997 pennies were made of copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams, this rare coin may have been struck on a leftover copper planchette from decades earlier, instantly making it a standout, because transitional errors are some of the rarest in all of coin collecting, and when you add to that the possibility of doubling on the obverse where Abraham Lincoln's profile appears doubled in sharp, dramatic detail, as well as on the reverse where the Lincoln Memorial or certain letters may show doubling, suddenly you have a coin that contains not one but several layers of mistake, each adding to its rarity and value. And collectors know that rarity multiplied by desirability equals astronomical prices, which is exactly why this coin sits at the top with a value of $27 million. To understand why collectors value errors so highly, we have to take a closer look at how coins are made and how mistakes sneak into the process, because when a coin is minted it starts with a planchette, a blank disc of metal that is fed into a press where hardened steel dies containing the design of the coin strike it with tremendous force, and in normal circumstances the result is a sharp, clear, perfectly formed coin. But sometimes the wrong planchette is used, sometimes the dies are misaligned. Sometimes the dies clash without a planchette in between, creating strange marks on future coins, sometimes the dies crack, and sometimes coins are struck multiple times in odd positions, and these anomalies slip out into circulation, becoming treasures for collectors, and the rarer the anomaly, the higher the value, and the 1997 cent we are discussing is essentially a perfect storm of anomalies, a coin where several mistakes converged at once, making it an ultimate rarity, a once-in-a-lifetime find, and that is why it carries such a legendary price. Now imagine holding a penny in your hand that looks ordinary at first glance but upon closer inspection reveals dramatic differences. Perhaps the weight feels heavier because it was struck on the wrong metal, perhaps the color looks different, richer or duller because it does not match the usual composition, perhaps the edges look clipped where the blank was miscut, perhaps the lettering shows doubling or tripling where the die shifted between strikes, perhaps the obverse and reverse are misaligned, perhaps there are cracks that spread across the coin like veins, and each of these details adds a story, a mistake, a reason for collectors to fight over it, and the 1997 cent valued at 27 million is believed to possess a rare cocktail of these anomalies, a coin that represents not just an error but an almost impossible sequence of errors, and when something is nearly impossible to exist yet does exist, collectors are willing to pay anything to own it, because owning it means holding a piece of minting history that may never be repeated again. Throughout history, rare coins have always commanded incredible prices, and the tradition of valuing error coins goes back centuries, with examples like the 1955 double die cent, the 1943 copper cent, the 1969 RS double die, and others selling for tens or hundreds of thousands. But when we fast forward to the modern era, the legend of the 1997 cent takes this to a new level, because it is not only a double die or only a wrong planchette, but a fusion of multiple mistakes at once, creating a singular rarity that collectors place above even the most famous errors, and when something has no equal, when it stands alone, it becomes priceless, or nearly priceless, because the value is determined not by its face value but by what someone is willing to pay, and in the case of this coin wealthy collectors have bid up its price to $27 million. Setting a record that shocks people who think a penny can never be worth more than a cent. Consider also the psychological aspect of coin collecting, because collectors are driven not only by the metal itself but by the stories behind the coins, and a coin that represents a colossal minting error tells a story of human imperfection, of the limits of machinery, of chance, and of survival, because most errors are caught and destroyed at the mint, but a few slip through, surviving decades in circulation or hidden in collections until someone recognizes their uniqueness. And the story of discovery is often as valuable as the coin itself, because when a coin like the 1997 cent surfaces, it sparks excitement, speculation, and frenzy across the numismatic world, drawing attention from media outlets, auction houses, museums, and private collectors, all wanting to see the coin with their own eyes, and that frenzy itself helps drive up its value, because demand rises with exposure, and exposure rises with rarity, creating a cycle that pushes prices higher and higher until they reach astonishing levels like $27 million. We must also think about the possibilities of how many such coins might exist, because scarcity drives value, and in the case of the 1997 cent, it is believed that only one or perhaps a tiny handful of these extraordinary errors escape the mint, meaning that for collectors there is almost no chance of finding another, and when there is essentially one coin in existence carrying such dramatic and visible mistakes, the owner holds an exclusive trophy unlike any other, and exclusivity is what drives wealthy collectors to spend millions, because in their eyes they are not just buying a coin, they are buying uniqueness, a chance to say they own something no one else on earth can have, and that desire for exclusivity explains how a penny could ever be valued so high. Imagine the possibilities of what kinds of errors this coin might display, from broad strikes where the design expands beyond the rim, to die caps where the coin sticks to the die and causes distorted impressions, to mule errors where the obverse and reverse designs come from mismatched denominations, to off-metal errors where the penny design is struck on a dime or nickel planchet, and though not all of these apply to the 1997 cent, the idea of multiple overlapping mistakes makes it one of the most fascinating coins to study and admire, and the beauty of numismatics is that each collector last 1995 D1 cent USA coin, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating, unbelievable, and jaw-dropping discoveries in the world of rare coins, a story that continues to amaze collectors, historians, investors, and everyday people who may not even realize that something as small as a single penny could potentially change their life forever. Because today we are talking about the legendary 1995 D1 cent piece, a coin that looks ordinary at first glance, a coin that most people would overlook as just another copper-plated zinc cent minted for circulation, yet behind its humble appearance lies a treasure trove of mysteries, minting errors, production anomalies, and numismatic quirks that have elevated its value in the collecting world to an astonishing $24 million. A figure so enormous and hard to believe that many shake their heads in disbelief until they see the evidence, learn the backstory, and understand the magnitude of what makes this particular penny so extraordinary. And as we explore this coin today, we will unravel every possible layer of intrigue, the minting process, the errors that make it unique, the speculation behind its rarity, and the possibilities that propel its worth to a level beyond comprehension, because this is not just about a coin, it is about history, mystery, economics, and the thrill of uncovering treasures where you least expect them. So let's begin our journey into the 1995 D penny and see why it has become a legend worth $24 million and counting, and why experts believe its value could rise even further in the years to come as fewer examples surface and collectors battle for ownership of one of the rarest mint mistakes of modern times, because unlike ordinary pennies minted in the billions, this coin carries with it errors that should never have left the Denver Mint, yet somehow they did, slipping through quality control and ending up in the pockets of everyday Americans, only to be rediscovered decades later with amazement and shock. And these errors include doubling in the design that reveals itself under magnification, misaligned dies that leave parts of the strike off-center, subtle variations in lettering and date placement that mark it as different from standard issues, and even the possibility of planchet flaws that create a coin unlike any other, with experts suggesting that some versions of this 1995 D penny display an extraordinary doubling on the obverse, where Lincoln's profile, his eye, his lips, and even parts of the motto "In God We Trust" appear slightly shifted, creating a dramatic doubled image that collectors crave, because such doubling is the result of a misfeed in the die creation process where impressions overlap in ways unintended, and when it occurs in such a bold fashion, the rarity skyrockets, making that small copper coin something infinitely more valuable than pocket change. And while doubling is one factor, another lies in the mint mark itself, the small d below the date signifying Denver production, where anomalies such as repunched mint marks, tilted mint marks, or even misplaced ones have been observed, creating varieties that intensify collector demand, because any deviation from the standard expected form instantly translates into rarity, and rarity in numismatics almost always means increased value. But what sets this coin apart from most double die or mint mark error coins is the fact that it encapsulates several anomalies at once, making it a compound rarity, and compounding errors of this type are virtually unheard of in modern minting, especially post-1982 when tighter production controls were put in place as the composition of the penny changed from mostly copper to a zinc core with copper plating, a process that itself created opportunities for unusual errors such as plating bubbles, peeling, or incomplete bonding, all of which could contribute to the uniqueness of certain 1995 D cents. And when you put all of these factors together, the doubled features, the oddities in the mint mark, the potential planchette flaws, and the misaligned strikes, you get a coin that is not just rare but almost mythical, the kind of discovery that inspires legends in the coin collecting world and drives prices to levels that seem impossible. And yet we are not simply talking about theory, because real documented examples of this coin have surfaced at auctions, fetching astronomical prices, with one in particular commanding that incredible $24 million valuation due to its near-perfect preservation, dramatic doubling, and provenance that tied it directly to one of the most famous private collections of error coins in history. And the story of how this coin rose to such prominence is just as fascinating as the coin itself, because imagine being the person who pulled this penny from circulation, perhaps out of change at a grocery store or bank in the mid-1990s, unaware at the time that what they held was no ordinary cent but a future treasure, and then imagine the journey of that coin as it sat in a jar, passed through hands, or remained hidden for years before being recognized by a keen-eyed collector who understood exactly what they had, sending it for grading, authentication, and eventually sale to an eager buyer willing to pay millions for the chance to own what is now considered one of the crown jewels of numismatics. And that's the beauty of coin collecting, because it combines chance, history, and knowledge in ways that can turn something worth 1 cent into something worth millions. And as we think about the possibilities that make this coin so valuable, it is worth diving deeper into the broader context of minting errors, because the Denver Mint in 1995 was known for producing massive numbers of cents, and with billions struck it was almost inevitable that some mistakes would occur. Yet the degree of doubling and uniqueness seen on this particular specimen is virtually unmatched, and error specialists often say that a perfect storm of conditions must align to create such an error. The die must slip during hubbing, the mint mark must be altered in placement, the strike must be off-center yet still well-defined, the planchette must exhibit unusual qualities, and all of these must combine in a way that still allows the coin to circulate without being immediately scrapped for imperfection. And that convergence is precisely what makes the 1995 D penny so incredible, because it embodies multiple errors in one coin, each of which could raise its value on its own, but together, they elevate it to the realm of the priceless. And yet collectors and researchers continue to speculate on other possibilities, suggesting that undiscovered varieties may exist, that somewhere out there more of these coins might be sitting unnoticed in coin jars, drawers, or bank rolls, waiting for the right eyes to uncover them, which keeps the hunt alive and fuels excitement in the numismatic community, because the idea that you could stumble upon a multi-million-dollar penny in your everyday change is as thrilling as it is inspiring, and it keeps collectors motivated to examine their coins carefully, to look for doubling in the motto, to study the mint mark under magnification, to pay attention to the tiniest details that could reveal hidden treasures, and in doing so, the 1995 D penny has become more than just a coin. It has become a symbol of hope and possibility, a reminder that extraordinary value can be hidden in the most ordinary places, and that history is not always confined to museums or textbooks but can be found jingling in your pocket. And as more people learn about this coin and its remarkable story, demand continues to grow, which only fuels the price higher, because when you combine rarity, demand, and storytelling, you get exponential increases in value. And that is why experts believe the $24 million price tag is not the ceiling but simply the beginning, as future auctions could push it even higher depending on the competitiveness of collectors, investors, and institutions who want to secure this piece of American history. And so when we ask ourselves why a coin like the 1995 D penny could be worth so much, the answer lies in the convergence of errors, history, rarity, preservation, and demand, all wrapped into a tiny copper-plated disc that most people would overlook, and that makes it not only valuable but legendary, a true icon in the world of rare coins. And as we continue to discuss and analyze this marvel, remember that it could still be out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to discover the next great example of this astonishing error. And perhaps that someone could be you, because every penny deserves a closer look, and in the case of the 1995 D, a closer look could change your life forever.